Mom, Dad, please don't watch this video.
You grasp your willy and you furiously masturbate.
NoFap and Semen Retention 2.0. I'm gonna give my honest take on NoFap. So let's get into it. Firstly, let me give the explanations of what NoFap is and semen retention and things like that. So NoFap is the abstinence of masturbation. Semen retention is the abstinence of ejaculation. And abstinence is the abstinence of procreation. It shouldn't be mixed with that though. Like NoFap and semen retention isn't actually abstinence, because that's more of a moral thing, more of a religious thing. NoFap and semen retention are things that men tend to do in belief that it's going to make them really strong and going to be really beneficial for them. So I want to go straight into the benefits of NoFap and the benefits of ProFap, or basically the pros and cons of NoFap. First things first, I do want to knock out that a lot of the supposed scientific benefits aren't actually true. Your testosterone will not increase from hopping onto NoFap or semen retention. Semen is not superpowered. I know, wow, guys, it's your seed. Retaining your seed makes you strong, man. You need to hold on to your seed. That is not true, because otherwise lions would be weak and gorillas would be weak and chimps would be weak. Listen, seed most definitely is important, but it's not that deep. It won't be superpowered. That tends to be a placebo effect. The abstinence of ejaculation does have benefits, but it's not because of retaining your semen, if you understand what I'm saying. Otherwise, a woman whose man struggles to pull out would be superpowered, or a promiscuous woman might be superpowered. Obviously, that's not the case. So why is it only the male seed that happens to be superpowered, but the woman's seed, which is far more rare, isn't superpowered? I'm sorry to say it, but no matter how much semen you hold within your body, you're not going to be stronger than Larry Wheels. It doesn't matter how much semen you retain, you're not going to get stronger or have more energy than a person who might not be on semen retention but is stronger and has more testosterone. As for NoFap, it does not increase your testosterone. People misconstrue it by saying that there's a slight drop in testosterone after you ejaculate, therefore it must mean that your testosterone drops. No, that drop is actually only temporary, and then it rises straight back to baseline. Your testosterone will not increase through these methods or through these practices. However, there is still a lot of benefits, and they tend to be mental. For example, one thing that it helps with is practice of self-control. Helps you to be more disciplined in controlling your urges and not always giving in, not being weak-minded and just being controlled by lust. On top of that, it's actually extremely beneficial to abstain from because of dopamine. So of course, dopamine is a neurotransmitter that helps us to seek things. Dopamine gives us a high, and it's there so that it helps us to seek out whatever is necessary for our survival. You might get dopamine when looking for food because it's necessary for your survival. We also get dopamine when looking to smash because it's necessary for our survival. To procreate is insanely important. What happens when you perform any activity that leads to dopamine, and there's obviously penultimate, there's obviously the climax where dopamine drops, it creates a cycle in your brain. Okay, doing this action gives me dopamine, so I want to continue to seek out this action. Our brain doesn't then comprehend, we can't get dopamine from things that aren't helpful. It doesn't comprehend that. That's why people get addicted to things like eating chocolate or drugs or sweets in general. So yet again, what happens is you create a cycle where in life initially you're meant to be productive, have resources, and having resources attracts a woman, and then as a result of that you're able to procreate. So dopamine is released. The problem is that now you don't need to go through that. You can literally just go on your phone, open an incognito tab, search P, then you can get the same amount of dopamine. The problem is it creates a cycle in your brain. Now, rather than think, okay, I need to be productive, which is beneficial for your life quality, you actually just think, but I'm being productive, I can just open my phone. So obviously technology's messed that up. So that's a huge benefit of NoFap, because you actually teach yourself to, hey, don't be stupid, don't rely on technology, still be productive and get dopamine the natural way. Of course, on top of that, when you actually engage in team fapping, right? I guess that's what we're gonna call it. When you engage in procreation, things like dopamine drops afterwards and testosterone drops temporarily. Prolactin increases. That makes you feel satisfied, whatever, makes you feel tired. Oxytocin increases. Not as much in men as it does in women, but it definitely still increases. So this is meant to make you bond to someone, and this is good. Problem is when you're doing it on your own, when you're just destroying your meat, who are you meant to bond with? Your meat, your hand, what are you meant to bond with? So that ends up leading you to feel that like empty, hollow feeling that you have after you nut. It's like, oh, okay, better clean up. So yeah, those are the benefits of NoFap. Onto the cons of NoFap, but the pros of ProFap. So the pros is that we were born to procreate. A lot of people don't want to admit it, but the truth is procreation is a huge part of life. That's the whole reason that lions fight. Lions fight so they can have territory where they have their woman who they smash. They fight to protect their young who they got by smashing. If you watch two musk oxes butt heads, the only reason they're butting heads is so that they can smash. Musk oxes literally have traits on their body that helps them to not shatter their brains when they butt heads, literally just so that they can smash. And isn't that wild? Even the fact that you guys think that peacocks are appealing or look cool, you know, they only look that good so that they can smash. You understand, procreation is huge, and it would then be kind of silly to then tell someone, hey, try to push away that need to procreate. Of course, they're obviously NoFap is then saying, look, don't procreate with yourself. Well, that's not procreating. Don't practice procreation on yourself. Don't rehearse. Practice it with a woman, which is all good and well, but some men genuinely cannot get women. Either they're too young or they just don't have their stuff together. So in those cases, I'm gonna have to be completely completely real, it would actually be unreasonable to tell them to engage in that, because all it will lead to is frustration. And why I say that is, if you have a male dog and it's very aggressive, people tend to neuter the dog. They cut its nuts off. And the reason they do that is because when the male dog isn't clapping cheeks, it gets aggressive. Like, it literally gets really annoyed, it gets angry, it can start being more violent because of not being able to clap cheeks. So what do? They cut its nuts off so that it doesn't have that desire anymore. So clearly, with male species in general, the inability to procreate can lead to frustration, and that can lead to aggression or just frustration in general, which isn't the best thing to have.
He's not a boy anymore, and he's getting to that age when he's,
He's what?
he's gonna want to fuck something.
To illustrate, I liken it to food. If actual procreation is eating food, then fapping is taking supplements. So what I mean is, you need the nutrients from whole foods, but if you don't have any whole food, it is kind of stupid to say, hey, just abstain from supplementing what you need. It is kind of logical to say, look, if you can't get the whole foods, then hey, take some protein supplement, take some vitamin C, or some magnesium, some zinc. It's just logical. So those are the benefits of ProFap. It's kind of like supplementing, put it that way. So now, my take on NoFap. Personally, I believe NoFap can be extremely beneficial, especially if you're trying to get your stuff together. It can help you to have the drive to stay productive so that you can procreate. The only issue is when people then make it a thing that young kids who are literally riddled with testosterone, and they tell them, look, you must control that. There's a level of shame you should feel because of that, or whatever. That's where I think it's a problem. So I think, of course, by all means, I think NoFap is extremely beneficial. I think semen retention don't make sense. I don't get semen retention, and people just kind of mix the two. They're kind of interchangeable, but I think NoFap, of course, is beneficial. I think on the ProFap side, I think it becomes a problem when you go from supplementing because there's no whole foods to being too lazy to seek out the food and then just taking supplements instead. If there is whole foods, if you can eat meat, or you just choose to take a protein shake, what the heck is wrong with you? There's a lot of men who just refuse to get their stuff together because they can just access things on their phones, and that's when it's a problem. On top of that, I want to say I'm completely against pornography. It just makes you voyeuristic. I'm completely against it, and even if you are on ProFap, I suggest that you hop off that completely. I'm gonna give some advice as to how to get off it. I believe that we should all be on self-improvement, trying to improve every single aspect of our lives. I do not believe that destroying your meat while watching pixels on a screen is beneficial for that. I also want to say that if you do decide to engage in ProFap, still keep that cycle healthy. So don't be out here waking up every morning and destroying your meat. Try to be productive throughout the day. Be productive, and then maybe at the end of the day, if you've been productive, then you can allow yourself that dopamine, because otherwise, yet again, you're still going to create a negative cycle. It's all about not having that negative cycle, continuing to encourage yourself to do good things, because dopamine is meant to be a driver for you to be productive. So by simply doing it when you're bored, you're just going to stay lazy, basically, put it that way. On top of that, stay off porn, stay off adult entertainment. And a good tactic to staying off it is by this: don't mock yourself. Picture yourself. You see this woman, she's really attractive. You're like, ooh, let me go approach this woman. She's really attractive. She's feminine, she's in shape, she's got blue hair, right? It's Bulma from Dragon Ball. So you approach her. You're like, hey, how are you? What's your name? She's like, oh, my name is Bulma. So
Would you like to,
have kids with you?
What? No.
Hey, you know what? I've got an idea. I'm completely not interested in you. You're not my type at all. My type is more successful men, more resourceful men, more productive men, better looking men, whatever reason. How about while I smash a guy who I am attracted to, you can just lay there and watch while you beating me? Does that make any sense to you? You would think that's disrespectful. You'd be like, what the heck? You literally just told me you're not into me. Why would I do that? That's embarrassing. I have more self-respect than that. And if you have more self-respect than that, stop watching women who don't even know you exist, who wouldn't even give you a chance. Now, from my experience, you guys are gonna be shocked, because when I posted my 10 to 19-year-old fitness transformation, you guys are like, oh, not all of you guys, but a lot of you guys were like, oh, I can see those semen retention gains, man, that strength from semen retention. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but there was 0 semen being retained. I don't know how much my body had to work to keep producing that, but there was none being retained. About B4 flex, I was B4 bust, I was B4 faps. Listen, there was nothing being retained. I was doing hammer curls for the win. I'm telling you, how do you think I was able to do the one-arm pull-up? But I'm gonna be completely real, that wasn't the case, right? What do you expect when you have a kid who has naturally high testosterone? He sleeps 9 to 10 hours a day, he eats well, and he works out. His testosterone is gonna be through the roof. So you really expect this guy to be able to exercise self-control? That's what I'm saying. And obviously later on in my teens, I then started to, I think I was 17 when I decided to actually take it seriously, and I started practicing NoFap, and that was extremely beneficial. But when I was a kid, when I was like, I'm telling you guys, and I started young too. I don't know if I should even disclose that. I might disclose that, but I started young as heck too. So I'm gonna just just be completely real. That's why I'm saying this is a realistic take that you guys must have, especially when you're that young. Are you really going to get action from a woman? And of course, it's just your body responding the way it naturally would respond anyway. We're not technically living natural lives. We're the only creatures that have this large institutions and this structure of society that kind of bids that you put society over yourself. I hope this helps you guys. Don't mock yourself. Stay off the hub. Do more productive things with yourself. It's beautiful flex. Oh, no, it's not. It's powerful. And I'm out.
Hey, why does Master Roshi want to meet a girl so bad anyway? Well, I guess that he likes going on dates just as much as you like food. You mean he's going to eat her?